This is Dead Serious, a show about short horror stories worthy of discussion. I'm Dead Pallid, and it's Halloween month, nerds. Today we're going to be taking a look at another SCP story, SCP-2220. Codenamed Hazley's Hammer. Hazley's Hammer. I like alliteration. This one drew my eye because it has alliteration. Let's get right into it. Item number SCP-2220. Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-2220-1 through 4 were disassembled and transported for reassembly to Site 76. SCP-2220-5 through -24 have been stored at Secure Armament Wing. Site-76 with detonator assemblies removed pending further testing. So as is always the case on these SCP items, you have a little picture beside them that kind of informs the story, or usually, I don't know if they all do, but this one has a green warhead right next to it, and it's labeled SCP-2220-5, prior to testing. So I think we're getting into some kind of supernatural, preternatural warhead explosive nuclear item, which I think is awesome. Description: SCP-2220 is a group of naval warships belonging to the United States Navy Task Force 38-3 array in close formation that manifested along with approximately 2.1 kilometers squared of seawater, 32 meters beneath 32 degree redacted 75 degree redacted at 00:0023 hours on 8th 9/2014. So August 9th, 2014. These vessels have been further designated as follows: SCP-2220-1, Essex class aircraft carrier USS Bon Homme Richard, CV-31, SCP-2220-2, Benham class destroyer USS Stack, DD-0. Oh my god, this is, guys, there's so much. There's so much of this shit. I like that they include all these details, and it's very militaristic and gives you that jargon. It's Ashcan horror. It's really grounding you. It's Fleming effect and all of that shit. But I think I'm going to save you all the time. The USS Bon Homme Richard, USS Stack, USS Wilson, USS Atascosa vessels forward of the smokestack is missing. Edge of the missing section curvature consists with SCP-2220-5's aperture radius. So this is interesting to me because they're saying that these are warships and upon themselves, an aircraft carrier, these kinds of things, as opposed to a nuclear warhead, which is what is being depicted. Let's see if that is rectified and we come to understand why there's that discrepancy. SCP-2220-1 through 4 were located intact but battle damaged amid the debris of the redacted. See Courier Post Extraction. Mystery sinkhole swallows local mill. Excess seawater was tested for anomalous effects and drained via pipeline into the Delaware River. All working machinery, weapon, aircraft, crew affected, and remains were removed to Site 76 for further study. Class A amnesiacs were administered to all first responding personnel, and a cover story involving a previously undiscovered aquifer collapsing was disseminated to local news organizations. I think this is as good a time as any to talk about something that I've been meaning to talk about and keep forgetting. Amnesiacs. These Class A amnesiacs that keep coming up in the SCP Foundation. As people have wanted to point out many times, quite fruitlessly, I don't know about the SCP Foundation. Reading these is me relearning about them, and so much has changed, so much has been expanded. If people are saying that I'm a fake gamer girl for not knowing about this stuff, I totally am. I don't. But one thing that I think is interesting is paradoxically the ridiculousness of Class A amnesiacs becomes more believable the more that it is talked about. Seeing as the SCP Foundation is this wide-reaching thing that has effect over so many people, and is just there and working in the shadows. The fact that we get so much detail and so much grounding, and we get so much insight, allows for ridiculous things like Class A amnesiacs, where people can just have their memories about certain things erased. If it was a single entry, if it was the first SCP entry, whichever one that was, the Mary Sue entry that everyone is controversial about, has very strong opinions about, if it was just that, I wouldn't buy the Class A amnesiacs thing. But seeing as it's this wide-reaching conspiracy, and we get this peek into how big the conspiracy is, it makes it feel more realistic and more grounded. And so, a ridiculous concept like an amnesiac that is just magically going to erase all pertinent information becomes more believable. And I think that that's the perks of something like the SCP Foundation. Man, it'd really be cool if I could be involved in some sort of SCP Foundation thing, but I'm so out of the loop on the SCP Foundation itself. It would have to be something new, some kind of new SCP-like collection of stories, but I don't know. Foundation recovery teams dispatched to the site found that in the case of each vessel, all personnel found aboard were deceased at their battle stations. Ongoing autopsies of the crew have determined that the cause of death in each case, aside from those with obvious combat-related injuries, was found to be an abrupt cessation of cardiac action, potential resulting from sudden cardiac arrest. Autopsies on crew remains are scheduled to be completed on October 15th, 2015. Operational orders found aboard SCP-2220-1 indicate that the vessels were involuntarily in combat operations supporting the Operation Olympic landings in the southern tip of Kyushu, specifically the Ariake Bay. Alright, it's time for a little bit of a history lesson. This is weird. We're kind of getting into this teleported alternate history weird-ass thing. It's beginning to feel a lot like the Wonder Woman movie. Operation Downfall was a proposed Allied plan for the invasion of Japan near the end of World War II. The planned operation was abandoned when Japan surrendered following the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the Soviet declaration of war, and the Soviet invasion of Manchuria. Operation Olympic was intended to capture the southern third of the southernmost main Japanese islands, Kyushu, with the recently captured island of Okinawa to be used as a staging area. So I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that if you're listening to this podcast, if you're listening to me talk, whatever the fuck this is, YouTube podcast bullshit, you probably did not know what Operation Downfall and what Operation Olympic was. Neither did I. This is such a weird, anomalous detail that I'm sure only history and war nerds know about. And to utilize something like that in writing weird fiction and writing weird horror stories, I think is really interesting. That's what I like to see, is people's knowledge be put to use in these kinds of interesting ways. You're taking history and recontextualizing it as a horror story. I love that. A very mysterious thriller-like horror story written in this bizarre, overarching, procedural, horror-generating mythos. Let's continue on. The last entry in the captain's logbook, dated, what is that? That is 11th month of the year, Brandon, November 4th, 1945, describes catastrophic losses being taken by Allied ground units attempting to secure the Ariake beachhead. Special weapons delivered by SCP-2220-1's aircraft were authorized in an attempt to force a breakthrough. So I'm assuming that the bomb itself, the actual warhead, was on the ship? 19 aerial bombs specifically resembling the Little Boy nuclear device designated SCP-2220-5-24 were located in SCP-2220-1's forward magazine. Inventory manifests indicate that SCP-2220-1 sailed from Pearl Harbor Naval Base on October 25th, 1945, with 25 devices. These records further indicate that 5 have been used operationally on November 4th, 1945, and 1 was undergoing emergency maintenance for what was noted as a detonator mechanism issue. The latter device is presently unaccounted for and believed to be responsible for the manifestation incident. These devices were removed from SCP-2220-1 and are currently stored at Site-76 Secure Armaments Wing. So if I'm understanding the story from this document so far, in 2014, late 2014, these ships were found just kind of teleported into areas around the world in the ocean. And on them were these nuclear bombs, these nuclear warheads. It is assumed that one of these warheads with a detonator mechanism issue caused this to teleport from an alternate dimension into our dimension, or to teleport through time. Operation Downfall, Operation Olympic was only a plan. It wasn't actually put into effect. So I'm assuming that this comes from an alternate dimension where Japan didn't surrender after we dropped Fat Man and Little Boy. And the war just continued, and we suffered major losses in Operation Olympic, and therefore had to use a bomb, and this bomb caused this thing to teleport into our dimension. That's pretty cool. That's weird. I don't necessarily understand it, but I think it's me being stupid and not the story, because everything so far has been so well grounded. There's a little bit of ambiguity there, and I think that that's intentional. Test detonation of SCP-2220-5 on blank blank 2000 blank resulted in the creation of a spherical Einstein-Rosen aperture 1 kilometer in diameter centered on SCP-2220-5's location, and resulted in the instantaneous disappearance of the entire target area within the sphere. Okay, so this is making sense now. That's what these things do. They look like warheads, but they're not actually warheads. They are teleporting these things to alternate dimensions. That is fucking awesome. No concussive force was observed during the detonation. The location of the missing terrain remains unknown. Test observations indicate that the aperture created a non-traversable and apparently functions test observations indicate that the aperture created a non-traversable and apparently functions as a one-way trip to an unknown destination in space-time. Further testing with 2 of the devices has been approved. Okay, so that's a lot to take in a short amount of time. I think that this entry has been well written. Definitely let me know what you think about this entry. Not necessarily a horror story, but again, SCP stories aren't always horror stories. In fact, most of the time they're not. They are just part of a vast conspiracy. And I really enjoyed this one. This one was quite the journey. Gave me a little history lesson. Hopefully I gave you a little history lesson by introducing this to you. Pretty cool SCP. Yeah, that's pretty cool SCP right there. Now, if you enjoyed that, please consider helping out the community and supporting my channel. You can support the community by conversing in the comments below, going to 2spooky.com for original horror stories, and trying your hand at short horror yourself. You can support me by liking this video, following me on Twitter and Tumblr, links in the description, and checking out my art page, which is also down below. Thank you so much for your time, and now on to our sponsor at this non-moment in time, which is Jujubes. Jujubes. They're like little candy bees that don't taste like candy.